Welcome to the Emerald Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy Doyle, and on this podcast I speak to different Irish athletes about their highs, their lows, biggest battles, biggest successes, and why they fell in love with their sport. In this episode I chat to one of Dubai's top coaches, Sean O'Shea. I chat to Sean about working with some of the world's biggest stars, including Patrice Evra and Virgil Van Dijk. Sean also speaks about his experience of coaching AIK against Celtic at Celtic Park, and so much more. Without further ado, Sean O'Shea. Sean, how are you? You're very welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, how are you doing? Good to be on.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. How's Dubai Irish going?
Yeah, it's going good. It's going good. I mean, we're halfway through our second season now, so we started off a little bit slow this year. We weirdly had 3-2 draws for the first three games, which is strange. We were winning every game and then just conceding late goals. And I can never really put your finger on exactly what it was, but I think, new players coming in, trying to figure out or learn how we want to play. Maybe a little bit of nerves because we challenged the squad this year that we want to try and get promoted. So maybe there's a little bit of nerves there as well. But we've settled down now. We've had a good run the last 6 games. We drew against Gulf and then we went on a good run, winning 4 in a row, which was great. So we feel like we've turned the corner. We've got one more game left before the Christmas break. And then, we'll see. We've still got 22 games left after Christmas, so we'll see how it goes. But look, it's been good. It's been a really challenging experience. It's been a really good learning curve. Obviously, coming out of full-time football of Sweden and then here to this kind of sort of semi-pro model is it's really good. I mean, it's a good group of lads, but it's just a different dynamic when you don't work with the players every day. You can't really control everything that they're doing, so that brings its own kind of difficulties and challenges. But on the whole, I love it. It's good clubs run by good guys, and look, it's a good project to be part of.
Yeah, and as you say, I'd say it is a challenge because you're competing at a high enough level, but then there's teaching, they're doing other jobs as well, and then they're coming to play football. I suppose there's a lot of responsibility on them nearly to nutrition, to look after themselves, do their bit of gym work and just make sure they're in the right frame of mind when they turn up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the challenge for me as the coach or with the coaching staff, and like I say, for the players as well, because they all work. So, some of the lads, teachers, yourself, you can be up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and working until 4 or 5 o'clock, and then you're expected to come training and put in a really good shift. And at the end of the week, when you're tired from the working week, you're expected to then, go and compete and play on a Friday night. And there's some really good teams across the Pro League now, since the kind of the development of this Division 2 and Division 3 as additions to the Prem and Div 1 that was obviously been around for a long time. Lots of good players knocking around, and we have good players in the squad. They've all played at a good level, whether it's been in Scotland or England or League of Ireland. There's definitely a balance to be struck, and it's difficult for the lads. When you're at a pro club full time, you can kind of manage the lads, and you've got them because you're paying them a full time salary, and you kind of have a lot of ownership on them. When it's kind of semi-pro, you lose that. So yeah, you're reliant on the players to kind of do a lot of it themselves. Some of them very good, some of them not so good, and you just kind of figure that out along the way,
Yeah, I'd say it is a challenge. And just how would you structure the week then, Sean? Would it be just get 2 training sessions in the game at the weekend, or I suppose how much time would you get with the lads to get what you need done?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely get two a week. Make sure we have 2 training sessions a week, and the kind of way we manage that, or we periodise those sessions is, if you're in a full time club, you'd come in as the first day of the week would be kind of your restart, and then you'd have 2 big conditioning sessions. Then you'd have a lower day before you go into the game, so you do your match prep, and it'd be more about speed of thought rather than actual speed on the grass. So we kind of took that restart part away and we took the match prep part away. We just do 2 good conditioning sessions, including the match prep for the second session of the week. The lads all have an individual programme, and then it's kind of down to them to, look after themselves and prepare themselves in the right way the day before the game. So it's not ideal, but it's the kind of best we can get in terms of the setup that we have.
Yeah, excellent. And I suppose there's only so much when that's the reality for you. There's only kind of so much you can do. But I know from hearing myself, I talk or know some of the lads on the team, and the whole club, the Dubai Irish, seems to be set up really well now. It's a really, I suppose, nice community, great kind of club and group that's keeps on growing.
Yeah, I mean, look, before I went back, before I left Dubai the second time I went to Sweden, I played for Dubai Irish, as an amateur team. They've been around since 1997 and started their kind of community program with the kids. I think they're in the 7th or 8th season now this season, and that's grown to 850 kids, and obviously got amateur teams, and they had a women's team at one point, and to then go into the professional game with the UAE Pro League, it's honestly unbelievable. Like, I can't speak highly enough about it. Like, you look at a lot of academies, they call themselves over here, but it's all pay to play models. You've got your big club models and you've got independent ones and stuff, but it's all about generating revenue and running a business, right? But with the Irish, it's been very different to that. And of course, all the coaches they have in the academy are all volunteers. They're all lads who played football or have coached football at a decent level, but they're all volunteers. And to turn up on a Wednesday and a Saturday when the academy are in, and you just see the sheer amount of kids in green kits and the amount of coaches and the amount of people that are supporting it from an admin point of view. And it's unbelievable. And everyone, I suppose the majority of kids that are there, 60, 70% of the Irish, they all say like it's like a home from home for them, and it's just a really good community feel. And they've built it really well. The people that are around it, like, I can't sort of credit them enough for what they've done. And like I said, I played for the amateur team, nearly 10 years ago now. Great experience. You make great friends being expats. It's a great way to socialise and stuff. So they've definitely got it right. I think they're the envy of a lot of people in terms of what they've built and the numbers that they have. And now obviously dipping their feet into the Pro League, it's a big challenge. It's a big cost. But it's something that they wanted to do. And, I was fortunate for them to bring me in. And they're really good at supporting it and driving it. And, in terms of support, people coming down to watch the games, people helping out, people that want to be involved and stuff. And it's really, really, really good, like, really enjoyable.
Any chance of you putting the boots back on and becoming a player coach, or is that out the door?
Do you know what? I've actually said that a couple of times this year when we had sort of poor performances, but in all seriousness, no, I wouldn't be doing it again. The last time I played football was actually for Stockholm Irish when I was living in Sweden. It's a funny story, but I basically got a message on Instagram one day, and it was an Irish lad who lived in Stockholm, and he worked for Jameson's. He was like the rep in Sweden for Jameson's, and he said, "Look, I know you're at the club. We've got Stockholm Gales. Could you come down and train us?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem. I'll come down when I get a bit of free time." So I went down a few times, did a few sessions, and they managed to get to a cup final. And I'd be good friends with St.ledger, obviously played for Ireland, and he used to come over to Stockholm quite a bit doing his scouting as he does for Leicester City. And he happened to be there at the time of the cup final, and he asked us, Kev, the lad, he said, "Oh, you could both play in the final, could you?" So me and St.ledger went and played in the final, and we won, which was great. It was obviously more impressive for them that St.ledger was there rather than me, obviously being capped by Ireland. But I think that was the last time I played 11-a-side football, and I vowed that I would never play again.
Well, if you've St.ledger beside you and that's the last time you played, it's not a bad one to talk about.
This is it, exactly. I mean, he was still as solid as ever, Sean. And I really enjoyed it. And the great thing for me was when I used to go to the training sessions, he used to pay me in Jameson's, which is great. So I thoroughly enjoyed that.
There's no one going to complain about that.
No, not sure. At all. No.
Tell me about your time in Sweden, Sean. I know you spoke a little bit there, but I know you were involved at AIK as well. How did that all come about, or what was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was brilliant. To be honest, I would have, if I could, I would have stayed. It didn't end great as often does in football. I mean, but to go back to the beginning, it was all because of here, really. I mean, I was working here before for the Crown Prince, and I was head of football at NAS Sports Complex, and AIK used to come here on training camps. So that's how I first kind of met the club. They came for 4 years in a row. They came for training camp, and I just built a good relationship with them. Went over to Sweden and watched a few games, and I'd lived in Norway previously, so I kind of had a really good feeling about Scandinavia. Like, I really enjoyed living there. So I spent quite a bit of time with them. And then, as timing happens, they called me one day and said, "Look, the assistant manager's leaving. We'd like to bring you in." So I was like, great. So we sat down and, had conversations about what the role would be and the length of it, etc. And what they wanted to do with the club. And I loved it. I mean, I loved the club anyway. That's why I'd spent so much time there. So I jumped in with 2 feet. I wanted to get back into the game full time. I really missed it, and I thought it was a great club to go there to. So I was happy to go. And I went over in the October to kind of agree everything we won the league in the November, which was great. It was a great start. And so that meant Champions League qualifiers the following season. I joined full time then in the January. It was brilliant. I mean, big club, really well supported. Most of the away games we played, there was more away fans than home fans. It was that big. You felt it was like a big machine everywhere you went. The players I got to work with, Seb Larsson was there, Mickey Lustig, a lot of young players coming through. Alexander Isak obviously came from AIK and obviously doing it really well now at Newcastle. But we've got a lot of kids through from the academy into the first team. Yassin Ayari was a big player that we bought through and gave him his first pro contract. He's now playing first team every week at Brighton. So look, the whole experience was great working with the young players, but getting to work with really well-established players as well. And yeah, flying around and playing Champions League qualifiers. We played Celtic in the Europa League playoff. So to go there, to Glasgow and play against Celtic was brilliant, and great atmosphere, great experience, apart from the fact that we lost, but it was a great experience. And like I said, I loved it. I loved living in Stockholm, great city, great people. And I wanted to stay, but as football goes, look, things changed last minute, and it wasn't meant to be. So we found ourselves back on a plane to Dubai.
Yeah, not the worst place to go back to, but I could definitely hear you out that you would have loved to stay in Sweden all the same. And professionally, what's it like because obviously you said played in the Champions League, what's it like for the everyday professional footballer? Is it just 100 miles an hour working each day, everything's real professionally set up? Just give us maybe some insight into what it's like.
Yeah, it is obviously it's full-time, full-time professional as they are, and you've got, like I said, you've got Seb Larsson and Mickey Lustig playing for you. Seb was captain of the national team. They were playing European Championships and World Cup qualifiers, etc. Whilst we were there. So, players' lives aren't as full on as obviously the coaching staff. But you're in every day. Days off, they're few and far between, and when they come, it's just about recovering for the players. But typical weeks we played mainly on Sundays. It felt we played Sundays and Mondays. So like I say, you'd come in, you'd have that restart session, but everyone was in early in the morning. You're in for breakfast. Once breakfast is done, team meeting, talk about if it's the first day back in, it was always a review of the game we just played. And then what are we doing in training? What does the week look like? And you start to, restart the players, but also start to talk about the next opponent, and you try and drip feed little bits of information into them. And like I said, it's 2 big conditioning days, which are really full on. You really empty the players out. So you do the kind of short, sharp stuff with small-sided games and possessions. And then the next day will be the bigger stuff, sort of bigger possessions, 11v11s, etc. So you're getting good conditioning of all different elements of the game. And then later in the week, you kind of take them a little bit down a level, a little bit in the training. So the load you deload them a little bit. And it's more about information and little bits of tactical advice and little bits that we're going to prepare for the game and working on your game model as well. And then, your match prep is very short and sweet. And then you're into game day. But yeah, the day to day, players are in at 8:30, breakfast 9 till 10, team meeting 10:15, out for training 11 o'clock. You're back in at 12:30, 1 o'clock, shower, change, maybe lunch, then a bit of a gym session, and away home they go. But it's a busy life, and you're in Sweden, but I suppose everywhere. But in Sweden, you're in January the 6th, 7th, and you're out the door. November the 30th, so you get a good month off, and then you're back into it. And that kind of 10-11 month block is just it's full on. You're home 1 week, you're away the next, then you're on a plane to Eastern Europe somewhere, and back again and recover. And we used to get the trains to games, or we flew to games. It was it's full on. Your feet don't touch the ground by the time the season finishes. You're ready for a break. But it's football. It's the game that 99% of the world loves. So to be involved at that level and do it as a full-time job is just you're really grateful for it. It's a great experience, and you just gives you the hunger and desire to want it more and keep going at it.
Yeah, and everybody would look, as I suppose a football fan myself, like it's the dream obviously to be there, taking part and being involved, but you do work hard. I think sometimes people think, they just kick a ball around for a while, they're at training, but they do work hard, they're in every day, doing everything they need to be at the top level for the game they need to be at the weekend. So I know, I think sometimes people take it for granted, but all those top pros work very, very hard.
Yeah, they do, and it's you hear those throwaway comments like, "Oh, I'd play 90 minutes every day for 300 grand a week" and stuff. And of course, you kind of get it, but if people have never been in that environment, it's very difficult to understand the kind of mental and physical fatigue that players go through. And look, of course, it's a really privileged place to be really good at football at that level. You've got to work hard and you've got to dedicate your life and you've got to make big sacrifices. But of course, it's still a privilege to be there. And I think 99% of players really do appreciate that. But they do work hard, and like I said, the sacrifice is the big thing. They miss a lot of birthdays and family weddings and stuff like that. If you're playing in England, you don't really have a Christmas. You might see your kids for an hour in the morning, but then you're off training and stuff like that. So there are a lot of sacrifices that come with it, and it's a short career. Look, if you're lucky, you get to play for 15 to 18 years. Some people a lot less, some people a little bit longer. But it's tough. The mental. Like I said, the mental fatigue is big. The decision making, the understanding of the game that you have, to be able to make a decision in a split second when there's 50,000 people screaming at you and there's players screaming at you and there's someone coming to tackle you, to be able to execute passes and shots and long balls and the running and the tracking back, the physical elements to it. It's really tough. You have to take your hat off to them, the distances they cover and stuff. And of course, some people listen to this and say, that's not difficult at all. Try. I don't know what. There's lots of tough jobs, of course there is, but it's tough. It's a tough season. They deserve the breaks when they get them.
Absolutely. And tell me, I have to ask you this before the time goes by. Away at Celtic, what was the atmosphere like? Because I know you go to the stadium, but what was it like for you on the sideline?
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable because, of course, there's the excitement of going there because it's Celtic and it's the Irish connection and stuff, and you grow up, of course, like watching Celtic games, especially Old Firm. So to be there, managing a game against them was unbelievable. The atmosphere was just electric, and I still say to this day it was the fastest and most intense game of football I've ever witnessed. I mean, it went past in like the blink of an eye. It was so quick, and the atmosphere everything's against you when you're in there because the fans are unbelievable. So, I mean, even in the warm-up, I was getting abuse. You're Swedish this, you're Swedish that. And I turned around and was like, I'm not even Swedish. And then it was like, you English this, So I was like, no. I can't explain to 20,000 angry fans the whole connection with that. So that was obviously funny, but you take it with a pinch of salt. But they were a good side. Obviously, they were managed by Neil Lennon at the time. And, Duffer was the assistant manager. And, I know Duffer really well. Experience, just brilliant. Everything, like I said, we lost the game 2-0. When they scored, the noise and the atmosphere was unbelievable, and it was just great to be there. Like it's one of my best memories, even though we lost the game. It was one of my best memories of being at the club, definitely.
And I definitely say it like with the likes of, because I know people say it about Anfield as well, but I'd say it felt like the crowd were the 12th man almost because of the noise they were driving the players on. I'd say that feeling alone would drive anybody on.
Yeah. Like it's not surprising that they get great results against good teams when they play at home because I was listening to a podcast the other day and Carragher was saying the same about Anfield. It's like they can almost dictate the game, and if you need a pick me up, the crowd really give them a pick me up, and it's the same there. It's exactly the same there. Like the fans they're fanatical and so intense, and they almost will the team on with the noise that they make. It was brilliant. I just wish we'd have won or scored.
I know. I suppose you'll have to take the experience you got from it, I suppose.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Tell me this, Sean, I want to talk to you about, I suppose, getting into football, playing a bit of football yourself when you were younger, and then maybe how you transition into coaching and maybe focusing on that a bit more.
Yeah, well, the coaching came early. I mean, I was always a keen footballer. At junior level, I was a decent footballer, and I played for Huddersfield since the under-9s. That was before academy football. I think academy football came in like 93, 94. So I was like Huddersfield schools, if you like, and then it transitioned into academy football and got to 16 where you start signing, your ITS as it was, or your scholar now. But I got injured. I had a couple of operations on the shoulder, and I didn't really realise at the time, but when you spend a lot of time out of something and you go back to it, you just feel like you're miles behind. And it was only as I got older and obviously learned about from the coaching side about how players, when they get injured and the time they miss from training. When I look back now, I realise that time out, being injured at such a critical time in your career, the lads were training every day and they just were too far away from you. It's so hard to catch that. You can't make up that time at that age. So I just missed out on a lot. So I kind of faded a little bit out of there. So I was released from Huddersfield and tried trialling at a few clubs, but again, just kind of off the pace a little bit, and then ended up in playing semi-pro for Buxton in Derbyshire, and I loved it. I had 2 years there. Great club, little town in the middle of Derbyshire, right up high in the peaks. It was always freezing, it was always snowing. Even in like summer, it felt like it was always snowing. But it was a great club and great experience. But you kind of realise when I got to like 20, 21, I was thinking, I'm not going to play football at like the level that I thought I was going to. And you start to think about like what you're actually going to do for a living. And of course, you're still quite naive when you're 19, 20, you're young. You don't really know what's going on. You think you know everything, don't you? But you don't have really a clue. And I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. Do I just have to get like a normal job or whatever? And it was my mum and dad. Mum and dad just said, well, why don't you do your coaching licence? And I was thinking, you don't have coaches that are 19, 20. But of course you do. A lot of people do that. So they kind of pushed me into that, and I loved it. And it just felt like, okay, well, if I'm not going to play, at least I can still be involved in football. So I started coaching like everybody does. You're doing like junior stuff, junior league stuff, or whatever. And my brother was actually living in Dubai, so they said to me, "Why don't you go and spend some time with your brother?" So I came over to Dubai, and obviously it was in its infancy then, to nowhere near what it's like today. And yeah, there were just little bits of football going on. So I was coaching and set up my own little soccer school, if you like. I was doing that for 5 or 6 years and really enjoyed it. But you have that coaching bug, and then you start to think, okay, I want to sort of pursue this and do it a little bit more. So I got a job in Norway. So I went to Norway then for a couple of years, and I was coaching up in Tromsø. Again, I started with the under 16s and moved with them into under 18s. Then I wanted to kind of carry on coach education, so I went back to Huddersfield, was in the academy, did the B licence, and I was doing really well there. And then the phone call came from NAS Sports Complex for a job with the Crown Prince, and I was kind of in two minds at first. I was thinking, should I stay at Huddersfield because now I'm in the club and I'm in the academy and I can work my way through and hopefully make my way up, and it's my hometown team and we're a championship club. But I think the lure of what they wanted to do here was like, this could not fast track me, but it could make me miss a few steps, because of course a lot of coaches get stuck in academy football and never really get out. And in England there's always been that opinion that, well, if you didn't play at the highest level, you can't really coach at the highest level. So I kind of weighed it up and thought, no, I'm going to take the opportunity in Dubai. So I came back, and that's really where it took off then, because I was working at the arguably the best training facility in the world. And my job was to go out and get the best teams in the world to come and train in here. So I was going to like Hamburg, Munich, Dortmund. I was going to Carrington United. We were going to Liverpool, went to Southampton, to Everton, Newcastle. I even went to South Korea, to Jeonbuk Hyundai. I was going to all these teams saying, why don't you come and train? Like, come to Dubai, train here. A few training camps. Stay in a hotel, you can train at this facility, it's the best facility in the world, blah, blah, blah. And obviously that has its benefits for Dubai, because it projects Dubai as a global place for athletes to come and train. So there's a win-win for everybody. But then I started to build up a really good network in football, and we built good relationships with clubs where they would send me players to work with. So, I then started doing like individual coaching and working with like United players and Liverpool players and Arsenal players. And that's just kind of escalated. So I got like a really good reputation. I was kind of not the go-to person, but because I was working at this great facility and we were working with the clubs, there was a trust there where they said, oh, we know the environment, we know the people, we can send them there. And that really kind of accelerated my coaching then, and you get to watch great coaches that play as well, so you're just kind of learning a lot all the time. And then obviously then that led me, as we said before, to the job in Sweden. So I don't think it was ever a gamble coming back here, but it certainly paid off more than I expected it to, which is obviously a bonus.
That's unbelievable too, that like you were a part of a main men, or one of the main men that was like looking after these players that were sent over from some of the biggest teams in the world. Who was there anybody to really, not to put you on the spot, but anybody to really impress you that you were working with? Anybody that came and you were just like, wow, this guy is gifted, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose you're wowed by. I mean, all of them were good pros. That was it. You always got the same kind of. There was always a level that everybody was at, a minimum level of like top professionalism. They knew how to look after themselves. They trained well. But the standout, I mean, Van Dijk was obviously a standout. Like, working with him, unbelievable. Like his work ethic and his commitment to training and to doing everything right and doing everything well was absolutely phenomenal. And he was a top guy as well, like a really, really nice guy. Patrice Evra was a good one. because of the amount of time spent with him. He was banned at that time when I worked with him because he, the biggest chunk. The weird thing with Evra, sorry, to go back, was I was sat at home one night and I got a phone call from an Italian mobile number, and I've answered the phone, and this voice says, "Hi Sean, it's Patrice Evra," and I'm thinking, this is a wind up. This is definitely a wind up.
One of the lads.
Yeah. But then he was like, "Oh, I was speaking to Studs and United, and he gave me a number." And I thought, okay, this is validation, and this makes sense. So I was trying to, can I come over and train? He was obviously at Juventus at the time, so he came and he trained in the summer, spent a week together. Back he went. Then he came back at Christmas. Then he went to Marseille, did the karate kick, got banned for, I think it was like 7 months or whatever it was, or it might be 7 weeks, can't remember. So I got the call from him. Look, I'm coming to Dubai. I want to train. This was like end of November. I want to be ready for the January transfer window. Okay, sound. So he comes in. We put a program together for 7 weeks. So it was end of November up to Christmas break. Did a program with him. He was in 5 days a week. And I mean, that guy works. He was really working. Like, he was desperate to get a good contract somewhere. So I got a phone call early Jan from West Ham. Obviously, Moyes was the manager. And they were like, look, how's he been training? What's his mental state like? Is he in a good place? Can you send us the data from the sessions? Because obviously they all were the GPS. We sent everything through, and he signed for West Ham in the January. And I've still actually got the voice note today that he sent me, like, a really nice voice note, just saying, like, thanks for everything that you did. I'm going to sign for West Ham. It'll be official tomorrow. But thanks for all the work you've done. Like, this is partly down to you. And, like, to get that kind of recognition from someone like him, who's been there and done it all, was phenomenal. And I have to say, like, you see all the, his Instagram and joking and stuff, and he's a funny guy, don't get me wrong, but from a work rate point of view, unbelievable. But I've had it with a lot of players. There was a player called Joshua Pesqueira, Portuguese player. He played for Portugal once, and then had a bit of a fallout with them. But he was at Galatasaray, had an injury, came, did a long camp with him, 6 or 7 weeks, ended up signing in Turkey. Then he went to Israel. Then he was in Poland the last few seasons. And if you looked at the data and the stats around him, outside of the top 5 leagues, he was one of the best players in Europe. And he's just signed for a club in Brazil. And he was a player I'd never heard of before. And when he came, he was a bit wild. But again, like I said, there was always a level with the pro players, and he was phenomenal. He was absolutely mental. Like, he was mad, but he was a great player, technically brilliant, and you can understand why he's had a decent career. But look, I'd never had a bad one, to be honest with you. Like, all the players we worked with, never had a bad one.
That's unbelievable, though. You must take great pride or satisfaction in that these players may be becoming injured or free agent, great players looking to get to a new club, and you are playing a part in helping them get to the top level where they need to be to find that new club or get themselves back into the shape they need to be in. It must be a great feeling, for yourself to have that factor that you're playing a part in that.
Yeah, it is. When you look back, it really is, because you kind of don't think of it at the time, because when a lot of the time it was just your job and somebody called you and you put the sessions together. But it was always really enjoyable meeting the player, spending time with them, putting the sessions together, and then kind of off they went. But when I look back on it, and you talk to people, you talk to people like yourself, or you're just chatting to your mates about stuff that you've done, you kind of think, if you don't do anything else in your football career, you can always look at look at what I did and look at the players that I worked with, and so to be a part of that was great. And when Evra released his autobiography, he wrote a bit about this, what we just talked about. I'm actually in his book, and if I go back to being released from Huddersfield and not even being a coach, you never would have thought that you would be in someone like Patrice Evra's autobiography and himself saying thank you for the work that you did. So it is like you don't do it from an ego point of view, but you just think, wow, it's good that you were part of it. And what an experience as well for someone who just loves football and wants to be involved in football. It was a great experience.
Unbelievable. And what do you think now, Sean? Are you happy enough to buy Irish for now, or are you looking to get back? Obviously, after being with AIK in Sweden was so big, are you looking to, I suppose, keep going to buy Irish and maybe look for something, I suppose, huge again, or are you quite content here with building up the buy Irish and the semi-pro team?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm obviously happy to be part of the project that we've got. I think part of the reason of coming back to Dubai was a family decision as well. I'd taken my wife to Sweden, and it was a very different experience for her than it was for me. So she was out in the kind. Yeah, it was very cold, and obviously she was used to the sunshine and no tax, and then you go to Sweden with the high tax and the freezing cold. But it was a very different world for her. I lived in this football bubble where I'm doing everything I love every day and travelling around and playing football matches, whereas for her it was a bit different. She lived in real Sweden, so she loved it still, but it was like we just had the baby as well when my daughter was born in Sweden. So when we left, it was kind of like, look, we need to do something as a family move, which is why we came back here. It's 3 years now since I came back. It's flown by. But the plan is eventually to go back. But the club were good enough to give me a full-time job with them and this role of getting the pro team going, and I want to see that through. Whether that's 3 years or 5 years. I definitely want to get them out of the division, or get us out of the division and get up into the next one and kind of see where it takes us. But there's still the ambition in there to at some point, go back into Europe or wherever. It could even be here, higher up the divisions, because you never know how things are going to go. But for the minute, we're happy. The family's happy here, and Dubai's a great place to live. And I've got a business here as well with my business partner, and we just kind of see how it goes. Football is one of those things you can be in 1 minute, out the next. So you should always cherish the job you've got, because you never know when the next one's coming. So I'll put everything into this job for now, and then a couple of years down the line, we'll see where we are with it.
Yeah, and even with Dubai and Abu Dhabi, you don't know what clubs are going to be formed or what way it's going to talk. Are they going to come into European competitions? I think I've seen, is the World Cup in Abu Dhabi, was that confirmed for many years later?
The Club World Cup is, the Club World Cup was there, and then you've got the actual World Cup was announced yesterday for Saudi in 2034, wasn't it? So yeah, so there's a lot going on in the region. Obviously, we just had the Qatar World Cup and the Club World Cup. I think the Club World Cup's been here twice now. So there's a lot going on. Qatar is on the move, and Saudi obviously is with what's happened over the last couple of years. So you just never know. You just never know. If I can do a good job with the Irish and get them into a good place, then you never know what kind of comes from that.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, Sean, because I know, just to solidify your Irish connection, I happen to hear that you did try your hat at GA back in the UK a long time ago as well. Were you much of a hurler or footballer, or how did that work out for you at the time?
Well, it was only football. It was only football. I didn't try hurling, but Huddersfield's weird. There's a big Irish community in Huddersfield, and Manchester, Leeds, those areas, Birmingham, obviously, which is where I grew up. But I started playing Gaelic football before I played football. I was just in a park, and we used to go to Huddersfield Irish Centre a lot. I mean, I still do when I go home to see everyone. But there was a guy called Ollie Walsh from Galway, and he took the Brothers Pierce Gaelic team, and that's kind of where we started, a group of friends playing. And they're now we're talking 35 years ago when I started, and I played from sort of 7 all the way through to about 13 or 14. Then I revisited again about 18, 19. But great experience. And we had some great trips and a great laugh, But it's a big club now. They've got girls' teams and underage teams. They've got a couple of senior teams, and they've done really well. But yeah, no, it was great. Look, I always watched the All Ireland and stuff. I was watching it in the summer when I was home. It's a great sport. Great athletes, Gaelic footballers, great athletes.
Yeah, I'll have to get onto the Dubai Celts here. Could get you in a jersey yet. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, maybe.
Look, Sean, thanks very much for coming onto the podcast. It's been great to hear all the insights of all your coaching ventures, working with so many great talented players, and I suppose the impact you've had on them as well. Really insightful and great to hear, and thanks very much for coming on.
No, you're welcome. It's a pleasure. It's good to talk to you. I wish you all the best with it.
Yeah, thanks very much. See you, Sean.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Emerald Athlete podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave a review, and don't forget to check out our Instagram page, the Emerald Athlete Podcast.